just a touch. There we go.
Yep, we're good.
All right, and I figured Coach is going to make an opening statement about how everything's going, and then we'll get into questions after that. All right, everyone, good morning. I think we got everyone coming into the Creighton session here of our Big East Virtual Media Day. We have everyone is in mute mode, and if you have a question to ask, certainly under the participants panel at the bottom of your screen, you can click raise hand, and we'll call on you and unmute you and ask for your question. And with that, we'll get started. Coach, if you have some opening remarks, and turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mike, and good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us today in this unusual year. It's great to be back on the practice floor, and I think the way the season ended last year and not having our guys around all summer, it's been a long road for them, and there's certainly been a period of adjustment, trying to get them back into the flow practice-wise from a timing perspective and everything that goes with that. And as a result, I think we've had a few nagging injuries because of it. So we're just kind of managing that right now, but nothing that's serious that's going to keep anybody out any extended period of time. But I really like the group. Obviously, experience is key in college basketball, and we're blessed with some really good, talented, experienced players back that are doing an incredible job helping some of our newcomers kind of find their way as we get a week or 10 days into practice.
Great. We'll go to our first question from Austin John Patullo. Austin.
Hey, Greg. Hope you're doing well. You return pretty much everyone minus Tyshawn. How important is it to have that upperclassman leadership heading into this uncertain year?
Well, I've always felt that experience matters in college basketball, and I think because of the situation we're in this year, and obviously it's unprecedented, and I think you're going to have a lot of interruptions during the course of the season, a lot of things that happen that are beyond your control. So I think that's where the maturity that comes with that leadership is really important, to be able to get past that, be able to understand that a game may get canceled here and there, and you've got to try to reset your mind and get ready for the next one. So I think that experience is really important in any given year, but especially a year that I think is going to be as different as this one's going to be.
Great, thanks. We'll go next with Joe Giuliano. Joe.
Good morning, Greg. Those of us on the East Coast kind of lost track of Marcus Zegarowski's rehab after the injury against Seton Hall. And I just wondered if you could detail it, like how he got through the quarantine, and obviously you didn't see him for a while. How has that all gone for him, and will he be ready for the start of the season?
Yeah, Marcus ended up having the surgery in New York City the day before we opened in the Big East Tournament against St. John's, a game that was canceled. So he was able to go home for about a month. There were things that he wasn't going to be able to do because it was non-weight bearing at that point. But we were able to get him back here in the middle of April, and Marcus really spent the whole summer, walking back and forth. There wasn't a lot of people on campus, him and the strength coach and the athletic trainer doing his rehabilitation. So I think he's in a great spot. His body looks great. I think his knee feels as good as it ever has. Now it's just a matter of getting some of the timing back from being out for 3 or 4 months. But, all the intangible things that he does, it's still there. And, I think he'll be a better version of himself once the season starts in a month.
Thank you.
Great. We'll go next to Doug Feinberg with the AP.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you. You mentioned how this is going to be obviously a strange season, and you hope to make it to March, obviously, without as few interruptions as possible. As a coach, most coaches like to control as much as they can. How do you deal with this day-to-day that really you don't have control over the virus? I mean, things can happen that completely you have no control over whatsoever. So how do you talk to your team and sort of go day to day instead of saying, hey, let's look ahead to next week or next month or whatever it may be as the season may go, you may have done in the past?
Yeah, I mean, we always talk one day at a time in our profession, and obviously it's a coaching cliche, but I don't think it ever rings more true than it does today. You have to take care of today, and then when practice is over, we make sure we talk about the things that allowed us to practice today. People wearing their masks, practice social distancing, wash your hands, make sure you're not in a group setting, do everything you can to protect yourself and protect your teammates. And, our message has always been, you have to assume the person you're talking to has COVID, and what are the steps you're going to take to make sure that you do everything you can to make sure you protect yourself. So, we've talked a lot from the start of the season, Joe, about, this is going to be a very different year. And our challenge is we have to try to do different, better than everybody else. And that's going to take some maturity. It's going to take some leadership. And, fortunately, I'm blessed with a team that has a lot of really solid leaders on our team that I think that can help us steer through some times that are going to be a little rough.
Okay, great. John Akers. Go ahead, John.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, John.
We were planning to redshirt Alex O'Connell this season, and now you're getting that extra year of eligibility. And I'm wondering, if that's something you can revisit. Or does it make? I don't know the circumstances behind that decision. So, are you stuck with sitting him out this year?
Well, we would still have to go through the waiver process unless they make a change and make everybody immediately eligible, which to my knowledge, they haven't done yet. But, Alex made this decision along with his family to leave Duke and to transfer to Creighton because he really wanted a year to concentrate on his body and to shore some things up in his game. And that's his preference, and that's his family's preference. And if that's what they want to do, I'm certainly going to respect that. So we will not pursue any waivers. And if for some reason the NCAA issues a blanket waiver for all transfers, then we'll revisit that with him and his family.
Great. Our next question will be from Matt DeMarinis. Oh, sorry, there you go, Matt. You there?
I think Matt's still on mute.
Matt, we got you now?
Yeah, no, I'm unmuted. Sorry.
I actually prefer you on mute, Matt.
I was going to say you probably would Fred stay muted. Val earlier today with us told us that there isn't a league-wide policy right now in place for restricting fan attendance, and she's going to leave it kind of up to each school to coordinate with their various public health experts in the situations that they have in their cities and state. I just wondered what kind of conversations you've had internally and with public health officials that maybe you can provide some insight into what it looks like in terms of your situation at Creighton right now with having fans in attendance.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it goes without saying those are ongoing conversations, and it really changes with the landscape, in our community day by day. I think 2 weeks ago, it probably
message me. Really, like, I know you guys are all sitting on the edge of your.
2 weeks ago, it probably looked good for us to have the opportunity to have a fair amount of fans in the stands. Obviously, the cases in Nebraska have escalated, and those conversations change to what is safe. And there's a lot of layers to go through that. I think it starts with Mecca and the people that run the facility, certainly with the city and the county campus. But if we're going to have fans in the building, we're going to do everything we can to ensure the safety of the players and the coaches from both teams, and also for our fans. And if we get to the point that we don't feel like we can accomplish that in a successful way, then we're going to really have to limit the number of fans. So while it's in a much different place today than it was 2 weeks ago, we also have over a month before we would play a home game. Things could look very different at that point. And I think you just have to continue to evaluate that really on a daily and a weekly basis.
Great. We'll go next to Dom with the Hartford Courant. Dom?
Hi, Greg. Good morning. Just want to ask you, I know we talked a couple of months ago about UConn. You're going to be playing them pretty early in the season, and I know it won't be the typical Gamble experience, was just wondering your thoughts about that game, looking forward to it, and what you've learned about UConn's personnel from maybe studying them over the summer.
Yeah, it's obviously that's going to be a tough trip with St. John's on the front end and then, UConn on the back. But, as we talked about in the summer, I've always been impressed with the job that Coach Hurley has done. I played against his team in the NCAA tournament when he was at Rhode Island and didn't have a lot of success. So, understand that the toughness which they display when they play and a premium on execution on the offensive end of the floor. So haven't really dug into their roster too much yet, but I will. But obviously they finished the season extremely well last year. Some very talented young players, and I think they're coming into the league at a time when their program is strong, and they're going to add real value to the Big East.
Thank you, Coach.
We'll go next to Joe Nugent. Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, Greg. With this unique camp that will last, 6 weeks without a scrimmage, without any exhibition games, are you searching for ways to maybe keep it fresh for the guys so it doesn't feel like it drags on and then boom, all of a sudden you play your first game?
Yeah, your conversation sounds like a conversation I'm having with my staff every day, trying to figure out ways, especially when you have a relatively veteran team, because it really can become monotonous for those guys that have been through it, 2, 3, and 4 years. So, this morning, for instance, instead of practicing today, we just had a quick walk through early this morning and gave the guys the rest of the day off. So, I think as a coach, you have to come up with creative ways to make sure your practices aren't the same. I've had my assistants plan practices probably once a week with drills that they like that might be different than what I like to do, just so it feels fresher for our guys. And as we move into October or November, I think it's going to get really difficult because, I think we were supposed to play our closed scrimmage this Saturday. So, we've got a month to go before we play. So we just have to be creative and make sure that some of it's fun because as you can imagine, we're all adults and you have 18 to 22-year-olds on campus that aren't getting to enjoy college life that they signed up for. So their life away from the basketball court is so different, and really it's unfair in a lot of ways, but it's the hand we've been dealt. So you would like basketball to be some sort of release, and that's still difficult. We're still wearing masks when we practice. So I think it's really on us, the onus on us as coaches to be creative in our approach and make sure, like no time before, that we're making this a lot of fun because it's going to be still a long road till we get to November 25th.
And we'll go next to John Bishop. John, I think you should be unmuted here.
There we go. Sorry about that. Matt, good morning. You got some unique options at the 5 this year that you maybe haven't had since you've been at Creighton. Obviously, Christian got better last year as the season wore on. Jacob's back from injury, and you bring in Ryan Kalkbrenner as a true freshman. Just talk a little bit about your options at the 5 and how much versatility that you might have depending on who is available to play.
Yeah, Christian really stepped into that spot last year with the injuries and did a terrific job. I don't know that it was really as part of our master plan to play him there, but as the season progressed, he grew in that position. He got better in that position. The exciting thing, I think, is in a lot of ways, Jacob Epperson is, when he's healthy and he's been practicing some, he's doing a nice job. I think with the way he's playing, he's better than Christian was at the start of last year. I think Ryan is better than Christian was at the start of last year, and Christian's better than Christian was at the end of last year. He's made good progress. So I think we have 3 really good choices. And, we've talked about that 3-headed monster, and hopefully we can stay healthy enough that can come to fruition. But, I really like what I see in Christian. He's stronger, obviously has a better understanding of our system on both ends of the floor and can execute that. Ryan has really stepped in and picked up everything in a hurry, and he's a sponge. He's great to coach. And at 7 foot with a 7'4" wingspan, he's able to change some things at the rim defensively that we didn't necessarily have last year. And I think when you add Jacob to that at 7 foot, there's some rim protection there that didn't exist last year. And Ryan can score on the block with his back to the basket, probably better than the other two, where the other two probably function a little bit more out on the floor effectively. So, we have to kind of change our thought process when Ryan's in the game to make sure he gets some touches down there because he's very effective when he catches it. So I'm going to knock on wood here. We've got 3 right now, but we've had 3 before and we've ended up with 1. So I'm just hopeful that they can all stay healthy and have a productive year.
And we'll go next to Josh Newman with the Salt Lake City Tribune.
Greg, good morning. How are you?
Good.
The tournament organizers in South Dakota have been a little vague on what the testing protocols look like. Are you able to say what your understanding is of the testing protocols there, and are you comfortable with them?
I mean, I think I've read the same information probably that they have, and it's the only MTE in the country, to my knowledge, it's being run by a medical system. Sanford Health is, the doctor that's in charge was the doctor that was in charge of the PGA tournament and their protocols, along with the Champions Tour. So, I think they have protocols in place that are better than any that I've seen. So, are we all going to agree on everything? Like every coach has a different opinion on what defense or offense is the best. I think doctors have varying opinions on how much testing and how long do you have to wait if somebody's tested positive? Is it 90 days that they don't need to be tested? Is it 120 days? Is it 150 days? Those are things that we'll sort out. But I feel 100% comfortable and safe going into that environment because of who's running it.
And Greg, just a quick follow-up. Obviously, you open with Utah. Have you started looking at Utah, and do you have any early thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched a little bit of film and I've been very impressed. Obviously they were a team last year that had a lot of success at home and lost some close ones on the road, but they return a fair amount of their roster. So Larry has always done a great job and always had a lot of respect for him. So that's a really tough opening game, tougher game than I'd like to have, frankly.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, great. Well, our next question will be from Monica McNutt. Monica.
Hi, Coach.
Hi, Monica.
Excuse me. Okay, so obviously COVID takes up a lot of mental space, but this summer obviously has been one that we had not seen in our country in terms of the conversation surrounding race. Kyle Korver recently on campus making statements that kind of made headlines and very thoughtful. How much have you seen your team sort of grow behind this conversation, and do you find that it has brought you all closer?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question it has, and I think it's forced some conversations among teammates that probably weren't had before. And we had a real opportunity to talk after the presentation Sunday night. Kyle and Josh Dolzer, one of our former players, and Rachel Saunders, one of our women's players, did a terrific job of hosting it and giving their perspective. And it just provided some talking points for our team the following day. And, we just have to continue to grow as a group and continue to listen. And I think Kyle's message was terrific. We don't know what we don't know, and it's our responsibility to be educated. And to stand with those that aren't treated fairly. So, I like where we're at as a group, and I think there's some really good ideas on how we can impact change in our community, and we're excited to see that happen.
We got time for a couple more questions. Kevin McNamara, go ahead, Kevin.
Yes, Greg, I'm curious if you guys play just a handful of non-conference games, maybe your MTE only, and then 20 Big East games or a really big chunk of Big East games. What's the NCAA Tournament committee going to do when it's time to pick teams? Do you think 68 should be the number this year? I know they've established that they'd like to keep it at that, but it seems like it's going to be quite a challenge for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one, Kevin, that I probably believe had the NCAA had a week or 2 weeks last year when this all hit instead of 4 days, that they would have come up with a model to have tournament in a safe way, maybe with fewer teams than 68 last year. But, Dan Gavitt does a terrific job running the tournament. And, I think they are preparing for every possible scenario. And I think we as teams we have to make sure we get to 13 games. And I think there's really talented teams in this league, and we have to make sure that we play enough games that we're all eligible. The NCAA Tournament Committee, throw out everything they've done in the past. There's going to be, if there's ever a year where you throw analytics and numbers out the window and you rely on the eye test, that's going to be this year. And some people might not like it, but it's going to have to be the world we live in for this year, because it's going to be very difficult to compare teams and conferences, because, in the past, a third or more of your schedule was non-conference play, and it's likely that that's not going to be the case this year.
Great, thank you.
Our next question will be from Anna Bellinghausen. Anna?
Hi, Coach. Can you speak about Antoine Jones and what kind of role you're expecting him with him being back on the court this year?
Antoine did a really good job taking advantage of his year off. Really changed his body, became more athletic, both laterally and vertically, and really has become a very good shooter, where I would say he was very average at that when he arrived on campus. But he's so versatile. I think we can play him at 2 or 3 different positions. His ability to get to the basket is probably as good as anybody on our team. And he does some things instinctively that are really very difficult to teach. So now, having said all that, he's still trying to adjust our system, still trying to adjust to where he's supposed to be on the floor defensively. The communication piece of it defensively is big to us. He's still growing in that role. But if he continues to progress like I think he's capable of, he's going to play a very significant role in our rotation, and can bring some of the things in a different way that Denzel Mahoney brought to us last year. Very difficult matchup for a big, and is able to overpower a smaller guard. So we're really excited about what he's going to bring to the table, and I think he's going to have a great career for us.
And our last question this morning will be from Tim Kruger. Tim.
Hey, Coach, you already mentioned 2 of the newcomers that could have a significant role in this team this year. The other one is Roddy Andronishvili. Could you talk about the progress that he's made and kind of the special hurdles he's had to make as a foreign player, and also how he's meshing with the system and the team?
Yeah, Roddy and Modestus, unfortunately, they got here late. So we were a week into school by the time Roddy was able to arrive and get his visa and everything, with the problems that he had in his country, trying to get here. So that put him behind the 8 ball. He ended up in quarantine for a couple weeks, so that slows your progress down as well. But both of those guys are hungry to learn. They listen, and besides the adjustment from going from a high school player to college player, they're going from a European style game to the American college game, which is different. And there's some challenges with that. Martin certainly went through that his first year to 2 years before he really settled in. And I see that happening with Roddy and Modestus right now. It's just it's going to take some time, but I think they're both very talented. And I think Roddy's ability to see the floor and play in space and transition really fits the way that we play. So I think he'll have an opportunity there to earn some minutes this year. When that comes and what role that'll be, it's a little bit too early to tell.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. That's going to, we're up against the time here for our Creighton session, so appreciate it. And certainly anything else folks need from the Creighton department here, Rob Anderson, Creighton Media Relations, I just put his info in the chat, and you can feel free to follow up with them directly.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, Coach. Thanks.